Nelson Mandela and the 1995 Rugby Games.
In 1994, Nelson Mandela was the first black president to be elected in South African history. The country had always been ruled by white people, and whites controlled most of the economy as well. When he became president, though, there was a lot of fear of a civil war occurring. Nelson Mandela knew he had to do something, so Mandela decided to use the sport of rugby as a mediator between blacks and whites of his country. When he became president, he called upon all people to rally behind their rugby team, the Springboks. The only thing was that the rugby in South Africa was an example of racial division because it was very segregated.
In 1995, the 30th annual Rugby World Cup was held in South Africa. South Africa won against New Zealand and was to receive the trophy from the current president, Nelson Mandela. When Mandela walked on stage to present the trophy, he was wearing the Springboks team uniform. When he did this, he was a black man wearing what was considered to be a white man's uniform. He did this to show his people that there was no white South Africa or black South Africa. There was just South Africa.
Historically, the main goal Nelson Mandela had was to unite South Africa. In quote, "We didn't have 62,000 fans behind us, we had 43 million South Africans." This was Springbok captain Francois Pienaar's response to a television reporter's question about the fans in the stadium that day. His response symbolizes everything Nelson Mandela hoped to achieve with the 1995 Rugby World Cup, a united South Africa.
Although South Africa now faced the challenges of many other countries, breaking down the racial barriers that had once divided the country was huge, and the 1995 Rugby World Cup played a major part in doing that. In regards to the significance of that World Cup for South Africa, Archbishop Desmond Tutu stated, "The great thing about everything good that has happened is that it can happen again. Simple as that." Those words by Tutu couldn't be any truer, because what the 1995 Rugby World Cup showed was that a country can unite as one and overcome racism.
What Nelson Mandela did that day was a huge step for human rights in South Africa. Not only did he reduce the racial tension, but he also kept his country together for many years to come. He used the South African team's World Cup win to show his people what they can do. But at the same time, there was a chance that even if they had lost, it would have had close to the same impact. Because before the game started, as soon as Nelson Mandela walked out onto the field, the country was already united.
Nelson Mandela was one of the most influential people in South African history. He used the game of rugby to unite his nation, and even though South Africa still had many issues, racial barriers had lessened. We could all learn from Nelson Mandela. Racism is still a very large problem here in America. With reports of police brutality, shootings of immigrants, and other issues, we could take a page out of Nelson Mandela's book and start down the long road of promoting human rights for everyone.